is The Independent. Rishi gets tough on Just Stop Oil, a bit like he did on immigration, I suspect.
Yeah. So Rishi Sunak has hit back at criticism from a United Nations expert over long sentences handed to two Just Stop Oil protesters. So this is Morgan Trolling and Marcus Decker, who were jailed for 3 years and 2 years and 7 months, respectively, after they used ropes and climbing gear to scale the Queen Elizabeth II bridge, which caused gridlock when the police had to close it to get them down. So, I mean, it seems fair enough. Finally, the criminal justice system is starting to deal with Just Stop Oil, because they stop people earning money, they cause people immense distress, they stop ambulances getting to hospital, and at some point, somebody's going to get killed. You know, somebody's going to get run over by a bus, then it'll be tragic. Because
somebody will lose their temper to such an extraordinary extent with them that there'll be a serious GBH charge, which I think would be a terrible thing as well. To be honest.
Exactly. Then you'd have two victims, really.
Yeah.
And we saw in Panama last week, a man pulled out a gun and shot two environmental protesters.
Right?
Was he a lawyer?
A middle-class American lawyer, retired lawyer down in Panama, and he just does it incredibly casually as well.
Yeah. But I want to know why the United Nations is raising issues like this with ministers in the UK. They've either got too many staff that they're looking around for stuff to meddle in, which is the problem with a lot of public sector organisations. I mean, the United Nations guy, he says he's worried about the freedom of expression and freedom of peaceful assembly and association. It's like, why are you getting involved in
the UN is a classic
UK?
Example of, I think it is Conquest Second Law, that any organisation or institution not explicitly right-wing in its aims will drift left over the course of its lifetime.
Yeah.
The UN started out with the best of intentions, but it's become essentially indistinguishable from Stonewall now.
Yeah.
It's just a meddling bunch of leftist... I'm not going to use a...
Meanwhile, over to Steve to bring balance. Great. What a teeing up that is. These lefties... No, I think Rishi is at least wrong in how he justifies this. Okay. So I don't know what the length of sentence should be, but I do know this is a fact. Protesting isn't a crime, so the sentence you should get is for the crime that you committed, which is stopping and blocking a road. So whether you're doing it shouting oil or doing it not shouting anything, you should get the same sentence. So when Rishi says it's entirely right for the selfish protesters intent on causing misery to face tough sentences, it's entirely right for people who block a road to get the sentence you get for blocking a road. Sorry that doesn't come...
That's not true. Intent and motivation is a huge factor of the...
But protesting is not a crime, but doing it on the top of on the QE2 bridge
it's a bit
is.
like hate crimes or something, isn't it? It adds a new dimension to it, which allows them to expand the sentencing. You won't... I mean, this is why you have judges. Otherwise, it could all be just done by AI. You know,
one day
they look. I'm quite sure you're right, but I do think I will say, as a sort of devil's advocate, I think possibly it's a classic example of the judicial system failing to act quickly enough and now overcorrecting its course. Very similar to the Savile case, followed up with all the U-Tree investigations in which the historical cases were blighted, their lives were blighted unnecessarily because they failed to act at the appropriate time.